Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Parishara Stotra Sata Shri Shriman His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Gaur Pamanande Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter 7, titled Further Inquiries by Vidura. Text number 16. Sadhu etad vyakritam vidvan. Sadvetad vyakritam vidvan. Natma maya yanam hare. Natma maya yanam hare. Abhati apartam nirmulam. Abhati apartam nirmulam. Visvamulam nayadbahi. Visvamulam nayadbahi. Sadhu etad vyakritam vidvan. Natma maya yanam hare. Abhati apartam nirmulam. Visvamulam nayadbahi. Sadhu etad vyakritam vidvan. Natma maya yanam hare. Abhati apartam nirmulam. Visvamulam nayadbahi. Sadvetad vyakritam vidvan. Natma maya yanam hare. Abhati apartam nirmulam. Visvamulam nayadbahi. Word for word translation. Sadhu, as good as it should be. Etad, all these explanations. Vyahritam, thus spoken. Vidvan, O learned one. Na, not. Atma, the self. Maya, energy. Ayanam, movement. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Abhati, appears. Apartam, without meaning. Nirmulam, without basis. Visvamulam, the origin is the supreme. Na, not. Yat, which. Bahi, outside. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Purport. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for His pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshulmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our discussion from the 7th chapter of 3rd canto, further inquiries by Vidura. So just recently we finished Maitreya Rishi's answers to two of Vidura's questions which he asked at the start of this chapter. And after Maitreya Rishi he answered these questions. In yesterday's verse and today's verse we're seeing Vidura's reply after his questions was answered by Maitreya Rishi. So I'll read the translation for yesterday's verse also. So this is text 15. Vidura said, O powerful sage, my Lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. So Vidura had asked two questions, one in relation to Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, the Ishwar, and the second question in relation to the Jivas. So now Vidura, he's thanking that I had these questions or doubts regarding the Ishvara and Jiva, but now these doubts have been removed by your convincing words. Similar way how Arjuna, he addresses Krishna at the end of the Gita. Arjuna had doubts, he surrendered to Krishna, he put forward his questions, and at the end of the Gita, Arjuna says, Nastamoha smriti labdha tat prasadan mayachita stito asmi gata sandeha karisya vachanam tava. That Krishna, after you speaking all this philosophy, now, nastamoha, now my illusion is gone, all my doubts are cleared, and now I'm ready to fight. And this has all been done by your mercy. Tvat prasadan maya chuta. By your mercy, all this has happened. So in the same way, Vidura, he's thanking Maitreya Rishi that, thank you for your answers, this has cleared all my doubts, and now my mind is perfectly entering into them. And in today's verse, Vidura is further continuing by saying, O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. In the purport to yesterday's verse, Prabhupada mentions something very nice at the start of the purport. So yesterday's verse, text 15, if we read the first sentence of the purport, Prabhupada explains that the science of Krishna or the science of God and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya Rishi. So this is a pretty deep statement by Prabhupada. What Prabhupada is trying to help us understand, Prabhupada is explaining that this whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of Bhakti Yoga, this whole philosophy of Krishna Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva, which we're all studying now, this science of Krishna consciousness, the science of Bhakti, it's actually very intricate, it's actually very subtle, so much so that even a person like Vidura, why is Prabhupada saying that even a person like Vidura, he is taking shelter of a guru or taking shelter of another devotee and asking questions? Because Vidura is no ordinary person. If we remember back of who exactly is Vidura, he's not just an ordinary son of a maidservant that might look like externally in the Mahabharata, but Vidura's history is that Vidura is none other than Yamaraj. And who is Yamaraj? Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajans. And not only that, if we look at Vidura's, in previous purports, Prabhupada explained that Vidura's heritage, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, that Vidura's heritage is also very great. How so? Who is Vidura's father? Vidura's father is none other than Srila Vyasadeva, who is the literally incarnation of the Supreme Personality Godhead. So on one hand, Vidura is none other than Yamaraj, And on the other hand, Vidura is the son of the Shaktavesh avatar of the Lord. Vidura is the son of the literal incarnation of the Lord. Vidura is the son of that personality who has written all the Shastras. So one would think that if someone is none other than Yamaraj, if someone is none other than one of the 12 authorities of devotional service, if someone is none other than the son of that person who actually wrote all the Shastras, he would know everything about bhakti, he would know everything about Jiva Tattva, he would know everything about Shakti Tattva, he would know everything about Krishna Tattva. But Prabhupada is saying, even though Vidura is such a great personality, even though he is one of the 12 Mahajans, even though he is the son of Vyasadeva, still Prabhupada is saying that the science of Krishna or the science of God and the science of the living entities is so subtle that even a person like Vidura, even such a great person like Vidura, has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya Rishi. From this we can understand, or we can get this realization that we should never think that we have learned enough. We should never think that that's it, okay, I've understood enough, I know enough philosophy, I don't need to ask any more questions, I don't need to read more, I don't need to hear more. I've hit the limit, I've understood everything. How so? Prabhupada is saying that even if someone is a Mahajan, even if someone is the son of that person who wrote all the Shastras, even that person is still thinking, I don't know enough. Even that person is going to another devotee, taking his shelter, asking questions, and is trying to learn more about Krishna. So from this we can see, if even Vidura, if even Yamaraj is feeling himself not knowing enough and wanting to learn more, then what to speak of us? So whenever this thought comes that I've read enough or heard enough, I can take a break, I don't need to know so much, then we can take that as a trick of Maya. Because even such great personalities like Vidura, who have such a great standing in bhakti, being one of the 12 Mahajans, and so on and so forth, even they're feeling themselves not knowing enough, and they're going humbly and taking shelter of another devotee and asking questions and trying to learn more about Krishna Tattva, trying to learn more about Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva, and so on. And we see the same principle highlighted in the Bhagavatam in different places. For example, another case study we can see is later on in the same third canto. We see the example of Mother Devahuti. And Prabhupada in his purports, he explains that Mother Devahuti, she's no ordinary lady. What's her position? Prabhupada explains very nicely in one purport that if we look at Mother Devahuti's parents, who's her parents? Her father is none other than Swayambhu Manu. And who is Swayambhu Manu? Again, Swayambhu Manu is one of the 12 Mahajans, one of the 12 authorities in the science of devotional service. So one would think that Mother Devahuti, that she's the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, one of the 12 Mahajans. So naturally Swayambhu Manu, while bringing up her daughter, would have preached to her all about the glories of devotional service. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. So naturally Swayambhu Manu, being one of the 12 Mahajans, he would have, right from the start of Devahuti's childhood, would have preached to her completely about the science of devotional service, the science of Krishna consciousness, about the importance of taking shelter of the Lord, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, Prabhupada says that who are Devahuti's siblings? One of Devahuti's siblings, so Devahuti's siblings are Akuti, Prasuti, King Priyavrata, and Uttanapad. And especially King Priyavrata, he is given as a great exalted Mahabhagavad devotee of the Lord. And we see his story at the start of the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. It's explained that Maharaj Priyavrata, he was a disciple of none other than Narad Muni. And understanding the temporary nature of this material world, understanding the importance of engaging in bhakti, he had completely renounced worldly life and he had gone to the forest and he was engaging in full-time devotional service, full-time tapasya austerities to please the Supreme Lord in accordance with Narad Muni's instructions. But there was a problem, there was no one to rule the whole universe, and that's why Swayambhu Manu, he comes and he requests his son, King Priyavrata, that please can you give up your austerities, can you give up renounced order of life and come and take the post of the king of the, or the ruler of the entire universe? Your service is now needed. But King Priyavrata, he rejects. And it's mentioned in Bhagavatam, 5th canto, that he was so fixed in his full-time service, he was so fixed in just engaging in full-time service to the Supreme Lord, that Lord Brahma, he had to descend all the way from Brahma Loka just to convince him. So that's how focused, that's how intensely King Priyavata, he was serving the Supreme Lord. That Lord Brahma, he himself had to come and reason with King Priyavata that please, give up your studies, give up your renounce our life. This service is needed, there's no one else qualified, you please rule the entire universe. So King Priyavata, he was the brother of Mother Devahuti. So naturally one would think that as they grew up, King Priyavata would have preached to Mother Devahuti all about bhakti, about the process of devotional service, about the glories of the Supreme Lord. Then from another angle, Prabhupada explains, who is Devahuti's husband? So her father is none other than Swayambhu Manu, one of the 12 Mahajans. Her brother is King Priyavata, a great Mahabhagavad devotee of the Lord. And her husband is also a great exalted soul, Kadama Muni, Kadama Rishi. So again, it's the duty of the husband to also uplift his wife. So naturally, through the words or the mouth of her husband, she would have again heard about the glories of devotional service. But what do we see at the end of 3rd canto? How does Mother Devahuti approach Lord Kapila? Even though right from childhood she's been hearing about the glories of bhakti from the mouth of none other than Swayambhu Manu, one of the 12 Mahajans, even though she has heard about the glories of bhakti from her brother King Priyavata, even though she has heard about the importance of taking shelter of the Lord from the mouth of her husband Kadama Muni, still when she is approaching her son, Lord Kapila Dev, what is the mood in which she is approaching Lord Kapila Dev? She introduces herself not as, okay, I am the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, I am the sister of King Priyavata, or I am the wife of Kadama Muni. The way she introduces herself to Lord Kapila is by saying, my dear Lord, I have simply wasted my life. These senses of mine, they have been simply robbing my life energy, and I'm sick and tired of the disturbance caused by my material senses. Because of these strong, powerful material senses, I've just simply been living in the deep darkness, deep dark well of ignorance in this life. And then Mother Devahuti says that you are like my transcendental eye. Only by your mercy can I actually see. Otherwise, without you, I am simply blinded by ignorance. So therefore, you please instruct me in the science of devotional service. You please explain to me about the glories of devotional service. So in this mood, Mother Devahuti, she approaches Lord Kapila Dev. Even though she's right from her childhood, she's been studying bhakti, she's learned about bhakti from her brother, from her father, from Kadama Muni, her husband, all great, not ordinary souls, all great Mahabhagavat devotees of the Lord. Still, she's thinking that actually I don't know enough, actually I don't know anything. Still the way she's introducing herself is actually, I've just simply wasted my life in ignorance. I've just simply been wasting my life going with my senses in the deep darkness of ignorance. And she's telling Lord Kapila Dev that you are my transcendental eye. Only with the vision coming through your words can I actually see. Otherwise, without your mercy, without the words coming from your mouth, I'm actually in ignorance, I'm actually in blindness. So like this, we see the mood of these great souls. If even Mother Devahuti, if even she thinks that she doesn't know anything, if even she thinks that I need to learn more about devotional service, I need to learn more about the glories of the Lord, if even Vidura, who is none other than Yamraj, if even he's thinking, I don't know enough, I need to learn more, then what to speak of us? So in this way, the Bhagavatam, it emphasizes this point that one should never think that he knows enough about the Lord. One should never think he knows enough about the tattva of the Supreme Lord, his energies, and so on and so forth. But one should always be eager to learn more and more and more. Like this, we see other example we can see of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and that example is there in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. Maharaj Yudhishthira, he hears from the mouth of Narad Muni the whole story of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsimhadev. After hearing the glorious pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he starts thinking of Prahlad Maharaj in great awe and reverence. Wow, Prahlad Maharaj, he was so fortunate, he got the direct darshan of the Lord. What amazing devotional service Prahlad Maharaj did. And thinking like this, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he starts thinking to himself that how unfortunate I am. Prahlad Maharaj was able to get so much mercy from the Lord, but I'm so fallen. Me and my brothers, we're just grahastas, and we're just stuck in the deep darkness of family life. And in that humble consciousness, he again approaches Narad Muni and says that, Narad Muni, is there some way out for us grahastas, us fallen grahastas like me and my brothers? Prahlad Maharaj, he was such a great devotee, he got the mercy of the Lord, and I also want to get the mercy of the Lord, but what to do? Me and my brothers, we're stuck in this grahasta life and we're just stuck in ignorance. Is there some way out for fallen householders like us? So in this way, Maharaj Yudhishthira, again in a very humble mood, he approaches Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni has to remind Maharaj Yudhishthira that actually you're not just an ordinary fallen soul, that please contemplate and think of how much mercy you've got. You've got even more mercy than Prahlad Maharaj himself. In this way, Narad Muni explains that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Lord, he is personally staying in your own house and he is personally acting just like your ordinary friend. Not only that, for your service, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is even acting as your servant, he is even acting as your messenger. So as we know in Mahabharata, there was the time when Maharaj Yudhishthira, he sent Krishna as his messenger, to create peace with the Kauravas. So in this way, Narad Muni, he reminds Maharaj Yudhishthira that just see how much mercy you've got. That same Supreme Personality of Godhead is living in the same house as you. That same Supreme Personality of Godhead is acting as your best friend, is acting as even your servant, is even acting as your menial servant. Just see how much mercy you're getting from the Supreme Lord. So in this way, Narad Muni has to preach to Maharaj Yudhishthira and get him back to his sense that actually you're a great elevated devotee of the Lord. But what's Maharaj Yudhishthira's consciousness? Even though he's such a great elevated devotee of the Lord, even though he has gotten so much mercy from the Supreme Lord, even though he's an eternal associate of the Lord, a Nityasiddha devotee of the Lord, always coming and participating in different pastimes of Krishna. Maharaj Yudhishthira again in Chaitanya Leela, him, Arjuna, Bhima, Queen Kunti, Maharaj Pandu, again they all incarnate in Chaitanya Leela and participate in Mahaprabhu's Leela also. So they're all eternal associates of the Lord. But still, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he doesn't think, okay, I know enough about bhakti, I know enough about the science of Krishna consciousness, I don't need to hear anymore, I don't need to study anymore. No. What's his mood? He's thinking, I don't know much, let me take shelter of Narad Muni and let me learn more and let me further my devotional service. Same thing we see later on in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam with Krishna's father Vasudeva. He again, same thing, he comes up to Narad Muni and again puts himself as a fallen householder and asks Narad Muni to please preach to him about a way out of the deep darkness of family life or the deep darkness of material life. Even though who is Vasudeva? Vasudeva is none other than the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, he is thinking that actually I don't know enough, actually I need the mercy of this great sage Narad Muni and I need to learn more about Krishna consciousness. And same thing we see with the start of Bhagavatam. The conversation is going on between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. And who is sitting in the assembly to hear Srimad Bhagavatam? In that assembly where the conversation is going on between King Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, is seated none other than Srila Vyasadeva and is seated Narad Muni. So Narad Muni and Vyasadeva, they are sitting as the audience of this conversation that is taking place between Sukadeva Goswami and King Parikshit. Who is Narad Muni? Who is Srila Vyasadeva? Vyasadeva is the very person who has written all the Shastras. He is the one who compiled the Bhagavatam in the first place. He is the one who spoke and preached the Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. So actually Sukadeva Goswami, he is a student of Srila Vyasadeva. But even though Srila Vyasadeva is the teacher of Sukadeva Goswami, even though he is the person who has compiled all the Shastras, he is sitting in the audience and he is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva is not thinking, okay, I'm the compiler of the Bhagavatam, I know everything about the Bhagavatam. No, he's sitting in the audience and he's hearing furthermore about the glories of the Lord. He's hearing further about Sukadeva Goswami's realizations about Krishna, about Jiva Tattva, about Shakti Tattva and so on. So if even Vyasadeva, who has compiled the Bhagavatam, even if he's thinking that I don't know enough, if even he's eager to hear more about Krishna, then what to speak of us. And then on the other hand, we have Srila Narad Muni. Who is Narad Muni? Prabhupada explains that Narad Muni, he is the father of devotional service. And he is the Shaktavesh avatar of the Lord, empowered with Bhakti Shakti. Meaning, Prabhupada explains that Narad Muni is empowered with Bhakti Shakti means that if Narad Muni sets his eyes on any conditioned soul and simply desires that I want this conditioned soul to become a devotee, that conditioned soul will immediately become a devotee. So this is the power of Narad Muni. He just simply has to look at a conditioned soul and just simply desire, I wish that this fallen conditioned soul become a devotee. Then, because he is the Shaktavesh avatar of the Lord, empowered with Bhakti Shakti, that person will immediately become a devotee. So this is the power of Narad Muni. Narad Muni is the father of devotional service. He is the Shaktavesh avatar of the Lord, empowered with Bhakti Shakti. But even he is sitting in the audience and hearing about Bhakti Tattva, about Ishwar Tattva, about Jiva Tattva, about Shakti Tattva, Vaishnava Tattva from the mouth of Sukadev Goswami, who is just a 16-year-old boy, externally speaking. So if even Narad Muni is thinking that I don't know enough, I need to hear more about Krishna, then what to speak of us? So in this way, we can take this realization home, that no matter how much we've heard, no matter how much we've read, no matter how many years we've been practicing in Krishna consciousness, we should never think we've heard enough, we should never think we have read enough. But we should always be in this humble position and always understand that actually we can never come to the end of Krishna's glories. We can never come to the end of Krishna's pastimes. Krishna's pastimes are unlimited, Krishna's glories are unlimited. And we can just go on hearing more and more and more and never come to the bottom of Krishna's glories. And in that mood, we should be eager to hear about Krishna Katha, be eager to read about Krishna Katha. And the more we continuously read and hear, more and more realizations Krishna will give to us from within our heart. Another example we're hearing is of Lord Shiva. We're hearing Navadip Dham Mahatmya, the glories of Navadip Dham, how one time in one of the islands of Navadip Dham, some Gaur Katha was going on. And Lord Shiva, he hears that some nice glorification of Mahaprabhu, some nice Gaura Katha is going on in Navadip Dham. So Lord Shiva immediately he gets his bull and Nandi and asks him to, let's go quickly to Navadip Dham, some Gaura Katha is going on. I don't want to be late for the Gaura Katha, I don't want to be late for the class, so let's go quickly. But Nandi, he is very slow, and Lord Shiva, he tells Nandi, come on, quicker, quicker, run quicker, we're going to be late for the class, I don't want to miss the class. And in this way, he's asking his bull carrier to go quicker and quicker. But the bull is trying his best, he can't go very fast. So then finally, Lord Shiva, he becomes impatient. He gives up, and instead he goes to Brahma, and he asks Brahma, can you please let me, just for today, can I borrow your swan? And your swan is very quick and very fast. Gaur Katha is going on in Navadip Dham. I want to go and attend the lecture. I don't want to be late for the Bhagavatam class. I don't want to be late for the Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So then he borrows the swan of Lord Brahma and then quickly comes and attends the class going on in Navadip Dham. And based on this pastime, there's the famous temple called the Hamsa Vahana temple of Lord Shiva in Navadip Dham. And who is Lord Shiva? Again, Lord Shiva is one of the 12 Mahajans. So one would think that Lord Shiva, he has heard enough Gaur Katha, he has heard enough Krishna Katha, the glories of Mahaprabhu and the glories of Krishna. But still, even Lord Shiva, he has this eagerness, even he's thinking, I don't know enough, I need to come and attend the class on time, I can't be late for the class, I don't want to miss a single word of this Gaur Katha which is going on. So again we see this eagerness that devotees have to hear about Krishna, they want to hear more and more, and they never think they have heard enough. Lord Anantashes is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that for millennium after millennium, for countless millions and billions of years, Lord Anantashes, with his thousands and thousands of mouths, he's been singing about the glories of the Lord, but even till now, he hasn't come to the end of Mahaprabhu's glories, he hasn't come till the end of Krishna's glories. So this is the nature of Krishna's pastimes, of Krishna Tattva and his Tattva of his energies, that it's unlimited, one can never come to the bottom of it. That's why Prabhupada is writing here that the science of Krishna, or the science of God and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. So then what to speak of us? So at every stage of our devotional life, we should always take it a point to always seek the guidance of other devotees, of other senior devotees, and seek their help. We should never think that we know everything. Now coming to today's verse, I'll read text 16, today's verse. O learned sage, your explanations are very good. As there should be, disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. So here Vidura is explaining that whatever disturbances that come upon us conditioned soul, the basis of that is simply the illusory energy of the Lord. I'll read the purport and we'll discuss bit by bit from the purport. Purport. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire mature manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for His pastimes. So we've discussed this point in previous classes, and Prabhupada is again emphasizing that the whole reason for Krishna creating this entire mature manifestation is simply due to the living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in terms of enjoyment. The living entity wants to be the center of attraction, he wants to enjoy like Krishna, he wants to be the supreme enjoyer, he wants to be the supreme controller. And because that's not possible in the spiritual world where Krishna is the center, so Krishna, he has to create a whole separate virtual reality, you can say. And he has to manifest this whole material world where the jiva can satisfy this unlawful desire, Prabhupada is explaining. And just to facilitate this, Krishna has created this entire mature manifestation. And Prabhupada is saying that Krishna hasn't done this for his pastimes, because as far as pastimes is going on, it's going on eternally in the spiritual world. So the main reason, or the sole reason, so we can discuss a bit about this. So under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, or Maya, we're all conditioned souls are falsely suffering many unfortunate incidents in material life. So this Krishna, he explains in Gita how right from the topmost planetary system to the bottom, in all the planetary systems, every single place, every single environment in any corner of this material universe is simply a place of suffering. But even though we understand from the Shastras that this whole material manifestation is just a place of suffering and miseries, still when we go out and we talk to other people, we see that people, they don't have this realization that actually they're suffering. They think that they're happy. And from this we can understand the power of the illusory energy of the Lord. It's given that one of the potencies of Durga Devi or Maya Devi is that she covers the vision of the conditioned soul. So by this covering potency of the illusory energy of the Lord, even though everyone out there are suffering so much through birth, death, old age and disease, and so many other miseries caused by their own minds, miseries caused by other living entities, miseries caused by material nature, even though through every step, padam padam yad vipadam, even though through every step of their lives they are undergoing hardships, even though through every step of their lives they are undergoing misery, still, if we go and talk to the conditioned souls out there, they'll think, or they'll tell us that I'm going okay, I'm doing all right, yeah, life is okay, not bad. So this is the power of the covering potency of the Lord. The covering potency of Maya, Durga Devi is so powerful that even though people are suffering through so many different ways, still they're thinking that I'm actually doing all right, still they're thinking I'm actually happy, I'm actually having a good time. And the only way this illusion can be eradicated is when they come in contact with a devotee. On their own endeavors, these conditioned souls, they can't come out of this covering which Maya or Durga Devi has put them under. The only way they can realize that they're suffering if they come and approach a devotee of the Lord and take shelter of bhakti through the mercy of the devotee of the Lord. In the start of Bhagavatam, in the start of second canto, when the conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami begins, Sukadeva Goswami, he very nicely explains how conditioned souls in this material world, how they're suffering. And he gives 4 examples. Sukadeva Goswami explains that conditioned souls in material existence, the karmis, they suffer or they undergo miseries, just like number one, just like that of a dog. Number 2, they undergo sufferings and miseries like that of a camel. Number 3, they undergo sufferings and miseries just like a donkey or an ass. And number 4, they undergo sufferings and miseries just like that of a hog. How so? Prabhupada, he further elaborates in the purport. Prabhupada explains that the hog, his whole life is full of suffering, his whole life is full of miseries, because right through his whole lifetime, what is the hog eating? The hog is eating all sorts of nasty things throughout his whole lifetime. He is eating his own stool, he's eating the stool of other animals. So such a terrible disgusting lifestyle the hog is living. But still, if you go and approach the hog is very happy and satisfied. Why? Because the hog is covered with the illusory or the covering potency of Maya and Durga Devi. In Prabhupada, he gives the example of Indra. One time Indra was cursed and he fell down from the position of being the king of heaven and he became a hog. And then when Lord Brahma came to ask Indra, okay, now your period of punishment is over, you can now give up your lifestyle as that of a hog and you can come back, become the ruler of the heavenly planet again. Still, what was Indra's response? Indra said that actually, I'm actually doing good here. I'm having a nice time. I have my nice, wife, hog wife. I have my nice children. I have nice food here. So many nice stool and other nice things are here. I'm having a very nice time here. I don't want to come back. I'm happy and satisfied. So in this, again, we see how powerful is Maya's covering potency. That even someone who was Indra before, even he is covered over by Maya so much, he's thinking that the life of a pig, the life of a stool-eating hog is actually very nice. So in this way, Sukadeva Goswami explains, this is one type of suffering that conditioned souls they go through. That just like the hog is eating all sorts of nasty things, but thinking himself, I'm actually very happy. In the same way, conditioned souls in mature existence, they're eating all sorts of nasty things, eating all sorts of abominable things like meat, fish, and eggs. And by eating all these nasty things, they're causing trouble to the body, not just in this lifetime, but also they're creating so much terrible karma which will come to hit at them in future lifetimes. But because they're covered over by Maya, they're not seeing this reality of mature existence. The second type of suffering, Sukadeva Goswami explains, is that of a dog. And Prabhupada explains, what is the suffering of a dog? The dog is searching for food and is going from house to house, from person to person for food, and is knocking door to door and is wagging his tail that, look at me, I'm such a nice dog, please, I'm hungry, can you please give me some food? And Prabhupada explains, in the same way, every conditioned soul in this mature existence, they're struggling, going from door to door, asking for a job, asking, please sir, give me some job, give me some salary, give me some money, I need food, I need shelter. So in this way, everyone in conditioned life, mature existence, is seeking money, is seeking possessions to satisfy themselves and satisfy their family. And in order to do this, they have to go door to door and beg for money, door to door, go and beg for salary. The other type of suffering, Sukadeva Goswami explains, is that of ass. And what does the ass do? There is so much nice grass for the ass to enjoy, just right in front of him. But the ass, he thinks that if I don't serve this master, if I don't carry this heavy burden on my back, I won't get food, I'll suffer. So this is something that Prahlad Maharaj, he talks about in the 7th canto Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj says that, how does that verse go? How does it go? Nevo duje paradurachya vaitaranya stodvija mayana ganamritam magna chitta soche tato vimukha chetasa indriyata maya sukhaya baramudvato vimudan. So in the last line of this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, maya sukhaya baramudvato vimudan. That these vimudas, these fools and rascals, they are carrying an illusory burden on their back. So it's bad enough to carry a real burden, but Prahlad Maharaj is saying that karmis, these materialists, they're carrying an illusory burden. There's not actually a burden, but they're imagining that I have to carry this burden. If I don't carry this burden, I won't be able to exist, just like the donkey. There is fresh grass present fully everywhere, all around the donkey, and he actually doesn't have to work very hard carrying so much heavy load on his backpack to get food from the master. He can just reject the person under whom he's working as a slave, and he can just go take grass. But still, the donkey, he has concocted this illusory burden that, no, I have to work hard. If I don't work hard, I won't get any food. So in the same way, Sukadeva Goswami explains that everyone in this material world, they're suffering under this false burden of material existence, thinking that I have to do this, I have to do this. If I don't do this, I'll suffer. If I don't do this, I'll suffer. And the last type of suffering, Sukadeva Goswami explains, is that of a camel. How does the camel suffer? Again, through the example of the camel, we see the illusory potency of the Lord, the covering potency of Durga Devi, of Maya Devi. Prabhupada explains that the camel, What is the camel's food? The camel's food is cactus in the desert. And the cactus has so many sharp thorns. And the camel will chew on the cactus, and the camel will eat the cactus. But while he's eating the cactus, all the thorns and the pricks which are there in the plant will prick the tongue of the camel, and by piercing the tongue of the camel, blood will start oozing out from the mouth or from the tongue of the camel. But still the camel will go on chewing the cactus. But as the camel is eating the cactus, what's happening? He's actually causing harm to himself. He's actually bleeding inside his mouth. And the camel is tasting the cactus, but along with the cactus, the camel is tasting his own blood. So actually the camel is causing harm to himself. Actually the camel is tasting his own blood. But still the camel is thinking, I'm enjoying, I'm getting some nice food. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that actually this so-called happiness, which we see in this material world, is not actually happiness. In the name of enjoying sense gratification, actually people are causing harm. Not just to their spiritual life, but people are causing harm to their mental body, to their subtle body, and people are causing harm to their physical body. They're actually draining the energy of the physical body, and they're actually draining the mental energy of the subtle body. Just like the camel, he's eating the cactus and he's actually bleeding and is actually causing harm to one's own self, to his self. In the same way, Prabhupada explains that in the name of happiness, people are actually destroying their bodies, people are actually destroying their mental bodies also. And we see this, for example, intoxication. People, they take to intoxication and they think that I'm actually enjoying. But what's actually happening? They're actually destroying their own physical body. Forget about the soul, forget about the spiritual life, but their physical body they're destroying. They're destroying their lungs by taking to cigarettes or marijuana or alcohol. They're destroying their hearts, their liver. And not only that, they're destroying their brains, their mental faculties also, as the ill effect of drugs and alcohol. One, mental faculties, they decrease, they go down also. So from this we see the example of suffering due to that of the camels. So how can one get out of these different sufferings? There's one nice verse I came across recently. This is there in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, in the last chapter. So this is Narad Muni talking to Maharaj Yudhishthira. And this is a very nice angle through which Narad Muni, he's explained to Maharaj Yudhishthira how a conditioned soul can overcome or get rid of all sufferings and distresses in life and can always be happy. So in this verse, Narad Muni, he explains the secret of happiness, which is such a hot topic nowadays. My Guru Maharaj was explaining that in universities now in America, for example, Yale University, one of the top universities in America, they did a new course called the happiness or the science of happiness. And it's explained in the whole history of this Yale University, this new course called the science of happiness, it exceeded the number of registrations by students than any other course. It was the most popular course in the whole history of the universe, in the whole history of this university, Yale University. So my Guru Maharaj was explaining that this whole science of happiness is now such a hot topic. Everyone is suffering so much in the modern day and age through anxiety, depression, stress, through so many different ways that everyone is seeking, how can I be happy? How can I be stress-free? And what is the secret of this? Narad Muni is explaining in 7th canto. So this is canto 7, chapter 15, text number 17. I'll read the translation. Narad Muni is saying, for a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there is no danger, even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there is no distress. Indeed, he feels happiness everywhere. So this is a very amazing analogy Narad Muni gives. Narad Muni is explaining to Maharaj Yudhishthira that just like when we go outside for a walk, if we're wearing our shoes, if we're wearing our nice sneakers or gumboots or some nice sturdy shoes and we go out for a walk, then even though on the pathway there is many pebbles, there's many stones, there's the rough ground, and there's many bindis and thorns, even though we're walking over these stones, these rocks and these bindis, these thorns, we're unaffected. Why? Because we're wearing nice, comfortable, sturdy shoes. So in the same way, Narad Muni explains that if the soul, he is always self-satisfied, if he is always taking pleasure from within, then for that soul, regardless of wherever he goes in material existence, regardless of wherever life takes him, he'll always be happy, he'll never be overcome by distress. Just like a person who's wearing shoes, nice suitable shoes, he'll walk in different environments, but no matter whichever environment he walks on, whatever stones, thorns, rocks and pebbles are there, they won't affect him. He will be unaffected by them. So in the same way, Narad Muni explains that if a conditioned soul is always self-satisfied, if he is always taking satisfaction from within, if he is always taking pleasure or rejoicing from within, due to that internal pleasure that he's feeling, all these external miseries and sufferings which are happening in conditioned life, he will be completely aloof and he won't be affected by the distresses and the sufferings of material existence, and he will always be happy no matter where he is. That's why we say that devotees, that's why Lord Shiva, he tells to his wife, Mother Durga Devi, that Narayana Parasave na kutaschana bibhyati swarga pavarga narakesu apito yata darshana. That for devotees of the Lord, they don't care where they are. They don't care about whichever environment they are in. They can be in the hellish planetary system, they can be in heaven, they can be in planet Earth, they can be in the spiritual world, but for a devotee, it doesn't matter. Why? Because within their hearts, they have this deep connection with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. They have a deep connection with Krishna, and because of that deep connection, they're always self-satisfied, and because of that satisfaction, because of that pleasure they're experiencing from within their hearts, it doesn't matter where they are. Everything else is secondary, everything else is external. Because within their hearts is Krishna himself, and they're always engaging in a loving relationship with Krishna within their hearts, and because of that deep bond they have with Krishna within their hearts, because of that deep love for Krishna, everything else is just secondary, everything else is temporary. It doesn't bother them so much. So this is the way, or this is the secret Narad Muni explains, by which we can always be happy no matter whatever situation life throws upon us, and how we can always be aloof from the sufferings of this material world. So to do that, what do we need to do? We need to go deeper within our bhakti, and we need to go deeper within our relationship with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they're personally situated within our hearts. Not just them, but Prabhupada at the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, after Prabhupada finishes writing all his translation and purports to CC, in the last volume of CC, in the concluding remarks of the author, Prabhupada writes in CC that actually this whole CC was written by me by the grace of my spiritual master. My spiritual master, he desired this, and to fulfill his desire, by his mercy, I have written, translated and given purports to the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prabhupada explains that actually, I was never separated from my spiritual master. My spiritual master was always within my heart, and he is always constantly there, present with me. And Prabhupada goes on to explain not just my spiritual master, but the entire Guru Parampara, the entire altar. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramani, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, our entire Guru Parampara, starting from the 6 Goswamis to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to Srila Prabhupada, our entire Guru Parampara, our entire altar, Prabhupada explains, are there present within our hearts. And we need to connect with them, and we need to develop a deeper relationship and a bondage with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath within the heart, with Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramani, with the Guru Parampara, with the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, with Srila Prabhupada. And if we cultivate this deep bond and relationship with our Guru Parampara and with Radha Gopinath, then we will always be experiencing the bliss which comes from engaging in that deep relationship with the Supreme Lord and with our previous spiritual masters. And by the strength of that transcendental bliss which comes from within, then everything else is just secondary. Everything else is just completely insignificant. Just like a person who's wearing shoes, he might be walking across different terrains filled with pebbles, stones and thorns, but he doesn't notice walking on because he's wearing these protective shoes. So that protective armor the devotee wears is this armor of self-satisfaction. And self-satisfaction is the self-satisfaction which comes from one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, with one's relationship with the spiritual master. Because a devotee, he is always feeling this bliss that's coming from his deep love for Bhagavatam, because he's always experiencing this deep bliss of Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Katha, of the holy name, of taking darshan of the Lord. All these sufferings and miseries of the world is just very insignificant. he doesn't even notice all these different things coming. I'll continue with the purport. So we just read that the conditioned soul under the spell of the external energy of the Lord falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. So we discussed how even though people are from day one, they're suffering, the covering potency of the Maya is so powerful that people think actually they're not suffering. So to remove that ignorance, they need the mercy of a devotee. And then we also discussed about Narad Muni's solution of how one can overcome these sufferings of material existence. I'll continue with the purport. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity is to occupy the predominating post of the Lord, is the cause of his material bondage. And the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. So Prabhupada, in the last sentence of today's purport, he is explaining that what is the root cause of the living entity's bondage. Prabhupada is writing that the living entity's false attempt to become like Krishna or to occupy the predominating post of Krishna, that is the root cause of his material bondage. So because the living entity, he wants to be the master, he wants to be the controller, he wants to be enjoyed like Krishna, that is the root cause of his bondage. So to get out of this bondage, we have to do the opposite. Instead of trying to become the master, Ishwaraham, Aham Bhogi, instead of trying to be the master, the controller, the enjoyer, we have to go the other way around. We have to go or aspire to become the servant of the servant of the servant. The more we go into servant of the servant consciousness, the more we'll be able to overcome material bondage, and the closer we'll be able to come to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. One offering I was reading of one of my god brothers on the day of my spiritual master's Vyas Puja last year, and this god brother of mine, he was explaining how as a new bhakta he came for a personal darshan with my Guru Maharaj, and the way he introduced himself to my Guru Maharaj was saying that, dear Maharaj, I consider myself to be a pleasure seeker. I am always seeking for newer and newer pleasure. I'm always seeking for newer and newer types of happiness. So in this way he presented himself to my Guru Maharaj. And what was my Guru Maharaj's response? My Guru Maharaj told this new bhakta that don't seek for happiness, instead seek for an opportunity to serve. And if you seek for an opportunity to serve, happiness will be forced upon you. And I was thinking about this, and as I was contemplating on this, it's actually quite deep. I got this realization that actually what my Guru Maharaj was saying is actually there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If we read towards the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's explained, the example of the gopis is given, that the gopis, not even for a moment do they desire their own happiness. The thought of their own happiness never comes into their mind. Their whole existence is simply for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. 24 hours a day, their whole consciousness is how can we give pleasure to Krishna's senses. Not even for a moment do they think of their own happiness, do they think of their own pleasure. But Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he explains that even though the gopis, they never think of their own happiness, they never desire for their own happiness, Krishna, he forces happiness upon the gopis, and this happiness that Krishna, he forces upon the gopis is 1,000,000 times more than the happiness Krishna, he himself experiences. And that's why Krishna, he comes in the form of a devotee, he comes in the mood of a devotee to experience this bliss that devotees of the Lord feel. So exactly the same thing my Guru Maharaj was mentioning, just like Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is explaining, that the gopis, they don't desire happiness, but they simply desire to serve the Lord. And even though they don't desire happiness, Krishna, he forces immense happiness upon the gopis. And in this way, the gopis enjoy even more than Krishna. So in the same way, my Guru Maharaj, he was explaining to this new bhakta that don't aspire for happiness. Don't go looking, I need to be happy this way. If I do this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll get pleasure. No. Instead of looking for happiness, you simply do this one thing. You simply look for an opportunity to serve. You simply look for an opportunity to serve other devotees. You simply look for an opportunity to serve the Lordship Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And if you simply go with that consciousness, of serving other devotees, of trying to serve the Lordship Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, then you don't have to go and acquire happiness, but rather, without you even attempting to be happy, Krishna would forcibly put or bestow or shower you with immense happiness. So this is another secret of happiness. That if you want to be happy, if we want to be happy in our spiritual lives, then we shouldn't externally go and try and seek out happiness. All we have to do is simply look for opportunities to serve, and just by that consciousness of trying to serve other devotees, that consciousness of trying to serve Radha Gopinath, by that very consciousness itself, Krishna from within our heart will force happiness upon us. Okay, with this, we'll stop here. Is there any question or comment? Okay. Yantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, entire Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.